Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about slow design. So many times we rush to fill an empty wall or space. Join us as we discuss ways to slow down and enjoy the process of decorating your home. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about slow design. So many times we rush to fill an empty wall or space, and today's episode is exploring a new trend called slow decorating. And I love this idea, and it's definitely a trend I think I can get behind. What do you think, Mindy and Julie?
It's really funny. My mom asked me what we were talking about today, and I told her and explained it all, and she kind of laughed, and she goes, "So are you going to sit this one out?" She goes, "Because you don't know anything about this topic."
Oh my goodness.
And she was just teasing me, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to defend myself in this. And
That's
because actually,
hilarious.
I think I do this.
Right.
Okay.
I'll explain later. Yeah.
Okay.
Mindy and I will let you know what we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll call each other on our stuff here, though. Now, be honest. I know. I was thinking, wow, what a privilege, to be able to slow design. I've thought about. In my mind, I went through all of the houses that I had to decorate and make home. And so I thought, what a privilege, what a blessing to be able to slow design. And then I thought, I'm terrible at it because I've never done it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciated the article, and there's a lot that it brings up. It's just a different way to think about your home. And I appreciated kind of the freedom that it offers.
Mm-hmm. I like this description that I read, just describing slow decorating. This person wrote, slow decorating, or as I like to call it, decorating with your heart, is a process of curating furnishings and accessories in a personal manner with staying power. By gathering furniture, furnishings, and artwork from places they've traveled, artisans they've met, and heirlooms they've collected over the years, the result is a space filled with items that are closely connected to the homeowner, thereby raising its sense of value.
Yes, I think curated is a good word.
Yeah.
That's how I like to think of how I decorate my home, that I add pieces and it's layered. And one thing I loved that the article said in my defense is that it is not about speed. Like the concept goes beyond just how long it takes you to do something or get it done. It's more about being intentional with your choices and selecting things that are purposeful and meaningful that you're going to love now and hopefully in the next decade too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This episode is primarily based on an article in House Beautiful that I think was published in March of this year. So I can put a link to that in the show notes. But also one of our friends sent it to us on Instagram. Somebody did a reel about that article. And she said, I think this would be a great topic for you guys. So that reel was interesting too. He was just kind of putting a visual to that article, but we'll definitely link that in the show notes. All right. Well, slow decorating or slow design. Now it comes the moment of truth. Do you think or do you feel like this is something that you practice?
Okay, I'll say for the most part, I think I do. For one thing, it might appear that I move quickly, but what you don't know is I'm always thinking in my mind about some DIY project or what I'm going to do next or moving furniture or redoing something. So when I finally mention it, I'm really way on down the road in that process. And then that just means I'm ready to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, I think that's a good distinction because I think someone could say, oh, well, you just mentioned reupholstering those chairs last week and now you already did it. Well, you were probably already mulling that over, looking at it on Pinterest, thinking about what fabric. Like it wasn't just, I'm going to upholster my chairs and then I ran right out and picked something.
Right. I had already researched, could I do this, how to do it, watch tutorials. Yes. So, and that used to confuse John because I would say, hey, what do you think about doing this? And then, he thought it was a whim and it really wasn't. I had really been thinking about it a long time.
Thank you for saying this, Julie, because Bryce and I have this discussion. Julie and I learned in a previous episode that we are internal processors.
Exactly.
And I remember Marie saying that she was an external processor. Well, my husband's an external processor. So he talks things out all the time. Well, he always thinks like John, that it's a whim when I say something. And so the joke is, he was like, oh, wait, or you've been thinking about it forever. Because that's what I say. Like, I've been thinking about this for like ever.
That's a good distinction. I hadn't thought about it like as an internal processor. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm constantly mulling things over. And I think the reason my first thoughts about slow decorating was that it was such a privilege, because being raised in a military family, we knew that house was not going to be our home for a long length of time. And so being able to slowly decorate the same space is just a gift. But I think that there's a lot that this article can even speak to maybe a military family or somebody that knows that they're only in a place for maybe, a degree for a couple of years or something like that. Internships happen. But there's a lot of these things that we can take away. Personally, I'm terrible at this. I want to learn this. And this is something that once I got my house to a place of functioning well, I want to be able to now figure out, first of all, what is my style? Because I think you kind of have to learn yourself. And that actually takes time to figure out what it is that is meaningful to you. Time is a major ingredient in this whole process for me personally, is just living in the house and, trying to get to know it and figuring out how what do you like and what do you want? So I'm here to learn.
Yeah. I do think that I practice this more often now, or I try to slow down, but I also feel like I don't want to live without things. So I'm not going to be one, like I remember we knew this couple when we first got married and they were on the lookout for leather furniture. And I don't think they ever had furniture the entire time we knew them, because there was never a perfect leather set that fell within their budget that met all the criteria. I don't enjoy living like that. Like, I'm not going to go without furniture or without a kitchen table. I might live without an end table because I'm looking for the right thing, but I'm not going to go out with live without major pieces of furniture while I find the perfect one, because to me, that's not enjoyable. But I will maybe like buy a transitional piece, like when I think, well, this wasn't super expensive. I could use it in another room. I could sell it on Facebook Marketplace for practically what I bought it for. I'll use a transitional piece. And so that, I think with the advent of Facebook Marketplace and being willing to thrift, if you're willing to buy secondhand, I feel like now I might have something in the space. It might not be what I want forever, but I'm not willing to just live without furniture. So I will still be curating. If I come across a better bed I like, I'll swap it out. If I come across a better end table. But in the meantime, I'm going to have something to sit on or work with.
Yeah, I get that. Like, I would say that when I first got married, I had to really fight against the tendency to just want it all right then. Mainly fight against John. But I would say the slow decorating started out of necessity in the beginning. Like, we lived in an apartment for 6 years. Well, we didn't need a lot, and then in our first house, we had an eating kitchen and a dining room. Well, we did leave the dining room empty because we knew what we wanted and we couldn't afford it. So we used it as a playroom, because we had little kids. And then I didn't like that. We didn't really need a playroom. So I moved like a little love seat, end table, coffee table, and a lamp in there, and made it into a little, as the British call it, a snug. And I loved that room. And we knew what we wanted. And it wasn't until we'd been married 10 years that we got our dining room furniture. So I was willing to wait for that, because I didn't need a dining room then.
Well, I was going to say, but you might not be as willing to wait now. Like, now that you have family and large gatherings, you wouldn't go 10 years without a table. You'd find some kind of placeholder.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like, I might even get a Costco table and put a cloth on it. I would have something there. Yeah, yeah. I remember we wanted these Windsor chairs that we had seen in a Williamsburg shop, and they were handmade in New England. And we loved those chairs. And I knew that there was no time anytime soon that we were going to be getting those chairs. So we went to an unpainted furniture store and found some Windsors, and John stained them all. And that's what we used as our dining room kitchen chairs for probably 10 years. And, Were they stylish? No, they were technically Windsors, but they didn't have the beauty of these handmade chairs, you know. And eventually I got those Windsor chairs and we moved those old ones up to the kids' bedroom to use as desk chairs. And yeah, I think I still had one until last year. I think I just always wanted to keep one because of all the work, you know, John had put into them. So I don't even call that like, it's not like, oh, I bought something cheap and it was a waste, because it wasn't. You know, we used it for so long. Yeah. And even then I didn't throw them out. I repurposed them and used them other places.
All right. Well, how have you personally put this into practice when decorating? I think my most recent example is my dining room. When we moved into this house, we lost a covered porch that we had before that I had a lot of space for dining. And we have a big family. If we have people over, it's, 20 plus people. And I really need 2 tables or one huge long one or something. So I thought, you know what? I wonder if 2 tables would work in this dining room. 2 just next to each other, mirror images of each other. And I did what Julie suggested that she would do if she didn't have a dining room table. I bought those folding Costco tables. I put tablecloths on them. I got chairs. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what would be the exact right dimensions that would maximize space, make it flow. And in the meantime, I'm using these plastic folding tables. And so I feel like that is an example of me going slowly into making a big purchase. Now, those 2 tables, because they have to be mirror images of each other and custom made, are not going to be something that I just turn around and sell on Facebook. Like, I have to actually put some money into those. So I'm being very careful about it.
Right. But by doing it this way, you'll really know if that's what you want or not. You'll know the pitfalls and the bonuses, the pluses of having it that way. And you'll be able to make a good decision.
Right.
I know I've been getting to know my house for the last 3+ years. And there's 3 particular spaces that I know we're going to have to eventually update, but I'm just waiting, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to do that. The dining room is definitely one. We have a large family and we grew by 1 3 years ago. And I know that we could grow again here soon. We're just in that stage of life. And so I bought a table to hold the spot off of Facebook Marketplace. And it's great. It's not my dream, but it looks good and it passes the test. Until I figure out the right combination of how long the table needs to be, how many chairs we need to have, and things like that. Also, outdoor furniture is another thing that Bryce and I are talking through. We have just used what we had until we can figure out what functions we want, because we really do actually have 3 porch spaces. And so that can be 3 separate types of seating arrangements, or, so we're trying to figure that out. But in the meantime, we're just waiting. And then the last area is our living room. And this has changed shape so many times. Again, all the different bodies that come and go. We used to have 2 couches and 2 wingback chairs that would recline. Well, over the Christmas season, I mentioned that I just kind of on a whim moved a 3rd couch in there and put the wingback chairs in another room, and we have loved it. So when we go to update our living room furniture, I'm going to need a lot of seating. It was really good that I didn't buy something right away for any of those spaces, because now I'm getting to know even the temperature outside. And do we want a fire table? Do we need, a umbrella to go because we have so much sun? So there's just things you don't know that you just have to learn over time.
One of the things that I wanted to talk was sometimes the difficulty of slow decorating. Like when we moved into this house, we were kind of starting over with all the bedrooms other than our own. We told the kids, they were moving off campus. We told them, take all your stuff and we're just going to have guest rooms upstairs. We'll tell you what room you're sleeping in when you come home. But in the meantime, for me, I would have loved to have spent the next 2 years. Oh, what perfect bed, or how do I really want these? Or what color would I like the walls or the curtains? Or what kind of direction am I going through? But really, I had a very finite amount of time. They're at school without coming home, maybe a month. we were going to be going into times when it's the holidays and people are going to be visiting. Like, I had to get beds. And I thought, well, I don't want to just go out and buy expensive beds. And I don't really know exactly what's going to work in these rooms. So I just bought elevated bed frames that kind of allowed you to have storage underneath at the same time, because I knew I would have people bringing home a lot of stuff sometimes. And so I don't have any headboards. I don't have exactly what I would have maybe picked for beds, but I also needed to just get something. And so I didn't spend a lot on the beds, but, I did spend something, and I could probably recoup, at least probably half on Facebook Marketplace as I want to sell it. But sometimes you just don't have the luxury of slow decorating. Like, people need furniture and you have to decide on something. Have you guys run into that?
I mean, but in a way, Marie, you haven't, if you've done that, you haven't really, you can still decorate. You know what I mean? Like, you can get the headboard slowly. You can get the comfort you want. You could change the wall color. You could still do all that while it's functioning. Yeah.
I still will, but like in my mind, a difficulty of slow decorating is that I do have to have furniture. I can't just sit around forever and think, what would I want in here? Or what would be the perfect thing? Because I love that process of research. And I could have come up with a lot of inspiration pictures. But in the meantime, the kids are coming home in a week and a half. We got to have some beds.
Yes. That has happened to us before. And one of the mistakes we make, I would call it a decorating mistake, is quickly getting all of your furniture at one furniture store at one time. And so I also was in a situation where I had to put together several rooms and living room furniture quickly. And it was very stressful to try to do that. And I wished I had had more time, because we do keep our furniture a long time. And so it wasn't a couple of years before I was like, yeah, I wish I would have done something different. But now I'm too practical to get rid of this furniture that we just spent a lot of money on. And so we have actually moved rooms and changed up furniture pieces so that it doesn't look so like I bought the room.
I see. I see.
So
You know what I
matchy.
mean? Like,
Matchy.
it's all, yes. I've tried to help it not be so matchy. So over the years, it has kind of worked out. But I would say, if you don't have to, don't go to one furniture store and pick out every room.
Right. I think it's bad when you go and spend, if you want a $3,000 couch, but you buy a $1,500 one you don't like,
Right.
as a holding. I think that's probably the big mistake, is to get something that's almost there, but you really hate it.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you
truly
too
have
much
wasted it.
to get rid of it.
Go and buy a $200 couch that you can sit on until you find something. I think that's smarter.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about our personal approaches to how we decorate when we have a new space, or how we would redecorate something. Like, what is your personal bent?
Well, I like to look at what I already have, especially in this move for us. We downsized. So it wasn't like I had all these rooms with no furniture. I had too much furniture. So I had to kind of think in reverse. But I like to just look at what I already have and what I love and want to keep and what I want to get rid of, and then I think, how can I use this? And, it might just be rearranging a room or styling something in a completely different way. I ask, like, okay, in my den, am I going to really watch TV? Is it worth putting a TV over the fireplace? No.
Okay.
But I learned that the hard way. We put it up there, took it down. Like you said, you have to live there for a while.
Yeah.
And I know what look I love, but I just don't get visions for rooms. I don't move in and think, this is the vision I have for this room. I have to pour through magazines, Instagram accounts, and save rooms, save these pictures. And then I look at, okay, what do all these have in common? Like, I might have saved one picture for the lighting, one for the color, one for the rug, one for the wall art, one for the sofa, but they kind of all have the same look. And then, I figure out, okay, this is, how can I make this happen with what I've got? And the best example that I can have, have is the first room I did in this house was the dining room. And I had found a picture of a dining room that I absolutely loved. So I painted the walls that color. I mean, I did this quick. Marie knows because she was here helping me put it all on the wall. Painted the walls. This inspiration picture had this gorgeous round antique dining room table. Well, mine's rectangle, and I thought that's okay. And it had blue. It had like a robin's egg blue, very pale color on the wall, and then it had some blue and white dishes, like in an arrangement on the wall around this gorgeous mirror. I had a similar mirror, and then it had buffalo check upholstered chairs at the dining room table, and I was like, okay, so I just put mine there, my upholstered chairs. That didn't look great, but then that's how I moved to reupholstering those myself. So I have to have inspiration pictures. So that's why it's always just going on in my head. I'm always saving and looking, and then I think, how can I make this happen? And it's usually mostly with what I have, and then some more inexpensive things like paint and fabric and stuff to tweak it, to get it right.
Yeah. I know with my current home, we went ahead and did the walls right away. It really needed to be painted. And so I feel like if you have a good, clean look, at least colors on the walls that you like, that's the best place to start. And then I was thankful to have furniture for every room. Maybe it's not what I would have chosen. But even I mentioned getting certain tables at the same time, switching chairs with a table, mixing and matching those made it look a lot better. But in this home, though, I have mentioned before, I wanted to keep all of our old furniture until I figured out what look I liked. And so then I did start poring over pictures and things like that. Now, my house is at a place where it's functioning very well. And so I'm not always thinking about how do I want to decorate because I'm so busy living life. I really don't think about my house very much as if it's functioning well, which it is. And so it's not like there's no pain points. You know what I'm saying? But I love to dream and think, okay, well, if I happen to find this, then that's what I would want to buy. And I think it's just getting to know what do I want because I don't even know. And it does take a lot of inspiration, pictures, like, that design stresses me out or that color stresses me out or just things like that, getting to know what you want. So I'm constantly saving pictures. Pinterest is super helpful.
I know. I also try to start with what do I own and how much of that can I use? And then I try to think of, well, what are some key pieces that I can't live without in the room? Like, okay, what has to be here? And then what does Facebook Marketplace have? Because I'll usually always check used because I know I don't want to have it for 20 years. And if I spend a ton of money, I'm going to have it for 20 years. I want to be able to switch it out. If I can't find something I truly love and I do need to get something, what would be a good placeholder? I don't know. I feel like in this house, I did get a lot of things, but like even this desk that I'm recording on, did I look and see like, what is my dream desk? No, I found some desk/tables that I like the look of. And then I started looking at my Facebook Marketplace and then I found this one for free. And I was like, hey, I like it, especially for free. It looks great. And then if I ever do find something that I absolutely cannot live without, well, then I can give this one away for free. You know what I'm saying? But I don't mind. If I like it well enough, I don't have to feel like I have to be married to it forever.
Right.
And I could decide tomorrow that I hate that desk, guilt-free, and get something different.
I'll say one thing that I would love to say is that when Bryce and I picked out our headboard and footboard, we finally bought ourselves a really nice one. Now it's been 15 years. And I remember thinking, oh man, it's going out of style. Like all this other type of wood tones or these other looks for headboards and footboards were becoming popular. And I thought, oh no, I need to update this. Well, financially we couldn't. We'd already invested in ours. And I thought, well, I have to keep it. Well, now, 10 years later, I'm so happy I didn't get rid of it because at this point in time, I love my bed and I like that it's different and I like that it's a warm tone wood and that it's mixed in and that it's not like everything else out there. But you guys, it took me a long time to appreciate that it was, I'll say, different than what's in style. So having a mix of those pieces is actually kind of nice. And maybe it's good if you can't afford to shop all the time for things in your house. It's going to come back around.
Getting something real wood is always going to be, you're going to be happier with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also make this comment, just since we're talking about this, is I'm thankful I never painted it. There were, when I knew I couldn't afford to replace it, then I thought, well, can I paint it? I was like, well, I really could paint it and it would look more, in style or relevant or whatever. And then I'm glad I never did. I could never decide on like, well, what color would I go with? And so I think certain smaller pieces look awesome painted, and you can get a whole new life with wood furniture. But if your wood is in good condition, I don't know, try to find another way to update without necessarily painting.
Yeah. I know, like in my dining room, I had a friend kind of help me, like, how could I update this? Because it is a very traditional antique table, and I had the traditional dining room chairs, and I just didn't like that look anymore, but I knew I was never getting rid of this table. So I sold off the chairs and actually found a guy that wanted exactly my chairs, So I got a good deal. And so now I have the 2 upholstered chairs at the end, which really updated the look. And then I have 2 of my Windsor chairs on one side, and then I have a bamboo bench on the other side. So it's very eclectic. And
I like it.
It's a way to kind of dress down that table. Like I would use that in a kitchen. I wouldn't care that it was a dining room, So it's,
yeah,
I don't know. I like keeping something that's maybe really nice and formal, but down dressing it, dressing it down.
The things that they were kind of talking about in the slow decorating was also just like your walls. Like, what are you putting on your walls? And I think sometimes it can be so easy to either leave your walls empty or go out to like a big box store and just buy some pictures that really don't speak to you, but they fill the space above your couch. And in the description that I read earlier in the episode, it said that by gathering artwork from places that you've traveled or artisans that you've met or heirlooms you have collected. And I love doing that. Like, I do have some art from Target or Hobby Lobby, and I will mix some of that like in a gallery wall. But I also love like garage sale art and art when we've gone places like that I've gotten in thrift stores and brought home in my suitcase, or prints of places that we've been, or art that I've created myself, or things that my mom made, that I now hang on the wall, or, like I like to have a lot of personal things that I've just collected. And I think that can really lend itself to slow decorating. Like I've got a wall in my bonus room that I know eventually will have some type of gallery wall on it because I absolutely love gallery walls. I even just pinned one the other day. But I don't right now have the stuff for that. Like I've already used a lot of my stuff in other spaces, and I'm not just going to go out and buy it willy-nilly. Like I will collect it slowly. And when I have enough stored in the closet that I think that I could put together into something, then I'll do it.
That's funny because that's what I immediately thought of was my gallery walls. That when I did the gallery wall in my former home, most of that stuff was up in closets that wasn't being used. I didn't go buy any of that, and I started noticing a common theme. Like a lot of them were antique maps and nautical charts and places that we had been, things we'd picked up on vacation, on trips. And so it was kind of fun to put all that together. And then when we moved here, I just did a smaller version of that. And in fact, everything that made the cut was a nautical chart or map of some kind. And the last thing I just added, my daughter gave me a handmade watercolor of a little island that John and I had recently been to. So that's up there. And I like things that someone has really painted versus stock art at Target or whatever. And that inspired me to paint my own stuff. Like when I would go on a trip, instead of taking a photograph, I would paint something to remind me of my trip. Or, if you can't do that, you could buy on Etsy. Like you can, I think that's maybe where my watercolor came from. Like you can find things that are handmade. I just think that really adds to the depth. I don't know. It just looks so much more homey and warm.
I like to see what people collect.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's displayed on the wall or on a cabinet or in an area, like if I went into Julie's house, I would say she collects nautical things.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be evident to me. And I have a bunch of antique plates hanging on the wall, and people would know that I collect antique plates. And so like, I think that that's fun because then you can pick those up on trips and places that you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always love landscapes. And so when we went to Arizona this spring, I found one that I liked out there, and I in a thrift store, and I brought it home. And like, I always love landscapes of every kind. And so you can kind of learn what you like, and then that can be like your souvenir.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pain point for me.
Is it, Mindy?
Terrible. Well, first of all, I'm not a collector. I don't like collections. I'm not a gallery wall girl. And I honestly, I think I value architecture or the soft surroundings of a space and more blank space. So this is something I'm learning that is a personal style that I can be okay with that. Like that's just how I feel at home and at peace, is not having a lot. But then that means having the right thing. So I feel like it puts a lot of pressure because I only have so many wall spaces where it's not a window or a doorway or, open or something like that. And so then those things, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I don't know if I'm going to be like the couple that can never find the right leather furniture. And I'm trying to learn, like, well, what do I value and what do I enjoy and what kind of things need to be up there? So this is where I'm at.
That does seem more challenging to have to find the one right thing.
That's the nice thing about a gallery wall is if I could take any one piece and someone would say, do you really like that? I mean, some of them I really do love, but some of them I don't love. I just like how they mix with the other
together.
things.
Okay.
They're not the star.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And Bryce doesn't enjoy mirrors. Like, I think mirrors are really cool. He does not like mirrors. I'm like, well, there goes that.
Well, I will say that I think it's easier, at least when I talk to friends, it's easier if your husband either doesn't have an opinion or will give you an opinion, but in the end, it's really your decision. I talk to a lot of people whose husband wants to be involved in the process, and that makes you slow decorate for sure. I mean, because it's going to take a while, but then I would have a hard time. I don't know. I would have a hard time.
Well, this is actually good for Bryce and I. I have learned that we actually make better decisions together. Me left to my own devices, I would quickly put something up. Him left to his own devices, he would wait forever and make the right choice. Well, together, I hurry him up and he helps me make the right choice.
Right. That's what I mean. Like it probably keeps you from making impulsive decisions.
It actually is very good. And I value his opinion because he has a more quality approach to everything. I'm like a get her done, and maybe it's not that great. So I do appreciate that he brings the quality. So now we actually bought some really beautiful, we bought some frames. And we're talking through what type of prints we want to put in them. And it's going to be perfect over this antique buffet. And the frames are sitting on the floor until we figure out what we want to do. And we're thinking landscapes of places that we've been. We've kind of narrowed it down. So we're working through that together. I'll let y'all know when we get something done.
Okay. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I will say it's harder when he cares about the decorating, John would always defer to my opinion on like the style or the color or whatever, but he was always pushing for the quality. So that's what slowed things down.
Yeah. Which is good. But yeah.
Part of that article was accepting the fact that you'll never be done. And I think that that's what I really identify with. I think I love the thought that I'll never be done. Like, that's why I like gallery walls, because you can always add to them. If I am only allowed to put one picture up and it has to be the perfect thing, well, now I feel like I'm done forever. And that's a disappointment to me, because if I see something cute in an antique shop or a thrift store, I want to be able to incorporate it. I love the idea of never being done. I mean, sometimes I want to just be done out of frustration on a project, or if it's not a space that I care that much about. But in general, I love the thought that I'll never be done and that I can switch it up and I can change it up.
Yeah, I like that too. Now, if my bathroom's torn up in a remodel, I want to be done.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like once I start a project, I already want it to be done, like painting or whatever. But I do like the fact that your house is constantly evolving and changing, and how you live in it changes. And that's kind of where I am now. And you get to reevaluate and do things differently. And while I like the big pieces to be the same forever, I can always change up all the little things. I liked the quote, I think in the article, it said our homes are a constant reflection of our lives. I thought, well, that pretty much says it, how you want to live. And that's reflected in what you see on the walls and what you sit on and eat on.
Right.
And,
I know I appreciate just the freedom. Like it kind of tells you to, take a breath. It's okay. It doesn't have to all be done, and enjoy it. Because I would say every time I try to hurry, it's not enjoyable and it's stressful. And I don't want my home to be stressful. So being able to take a breath and step back and, just take my time, I appreciate that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I would be terribly bored too if I saw my house as done. I don't want to get to the point where I think, good, I'm done, I can just live. Like, to me, living is doing all those things. That is living for me. And I also don't want to be like the old lady, you go in her house and it looks like she was done 25 years ago. Have you been in people's houses? It's like they have not done one thing in the last 25 years. Like, I don't want to be like that.
Well, the idea of done sounds very nice to me. It's very much what I want. And I think it's because I've had to create so many homes. And I do want to be done. I don't want to be decorating my home. But I think that's coming because now that having some time makes it enjoyable. Again, I'm not stressed. I'm not just trying to, hurry up and finish a space, for a short amount of time. So I do
you
want
go
to
through
live.
phases, Mindy. You can go through phases of enjoying, and then there can be times when you just really want to get things done. Or you need to get things done, it just needs to be done.
I don't even want to go thinking about furniture. It does not sound enjoyable whatsoever right now.
It's too big. It's too big of a decision. Okay. Well, can you recall mistakes you've made because you just wanted it finished? Is there anything that you're like, well, I know you said about the going into the furniture store and buying all one room, but is there anything else that came to mind?
All the holes in the wall from the pictures that
that's true.
I'm thinking of holes in the wall, hanging curtains too quick, and then thinking, oh no, I actually want to hang those up at the ceiling. So then there's those extra holes from the curtains, or hanging pictures in haste and then not enjoying the picture, and thinking, oh no, I'd like something else there. So I think just putting something up on the wall way too quickly.
Yeah, there's a happy medium between leaving your wall blank forever and thinking that you need to have it all up just because you moved in and, okay, well, there's all these pictures. I store a lot of pictures in closets when I don't know what to do with them. I have a lot more wall space in this house, and some, my family, they've come over, they're like, oh, is that new? It's like, no, I just had it in the closet for the last 10 years because I didn't know where to put it. It's not new. I just was storing it. I didn't want to get rid of it, but I didn't know where to hang it. So I think that can definitely happen. Julie, do you have a mistake that you're like, oh, I did that too quickly?
I mean, I know I have lost focus in the past and maybe bought something just to buy it because I liked it, but I had no idea where I was going to put it. And I remember thinking, oh, I think I can find a place for this. Like, I think it'll go here. It's like, and that never turns out good. I ended up moving that piece to 3 different rooms and then finally out the door. I mean, I sold it, and it was a used piece of furniture, and I sold it. But for me, I need to kind of keep a mental list. Like, I'm looking for this or this or this, and then be on the lookout, but not just go in the store and say, oh, what do I like? Because I might like a lot of things, but then there's just no place for it. And then probably my biggest mistake has always been paint colors, because once I decide to do something, I want it done yesterday. Yeah. So I was just, pick out my little swatch and then paint it. and then hate it.
Mm.
And then, and so I've learned after 30 years to get multiple swatches, look online to see what this color looks like in these rooms, and then be willing to buy 3 or 4 different samples of paint, put it on the wall, live with it for a week, see it in different lighting. I hate all that. I hate doing all that.
That sounds
I just hate
awful.
it. But that's how you don't make mistakes, and I finally learned that. So that's a way that I've had to slow down,
Mm-hmm.
When I'm looking on Instagram and maybe when I follow somebody's what is it called? Like to know, where you can shop,
right.
I'll go there and think, oh, I need that lamp or whatever. And I'll just end up, if it's an Amazon thing, I'll just kind of heart it, like it, and it goes on a list, a wish list. And that's how I do it now. I just put everything on the list, and then I go back through that list and I think, why did I want that? I don't need that. And it has no interest from, So that's a good way to slow things down for me. And in the end, I usually don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There were a few notes that I put down after reading the article. 1, enjoy the process. And that can be hard when we're trying to finish something. But it is an enjoyable process. I wouldn't continually be restarting the process if there wasn't some element of joy in the process. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would want to just be done. And I don't. So I must enjoy the process in some way. It said, look at your home's architecture. And it's not that you always have to decorate for the architecture of your home, but I think that can be a starting point. Think about what kind of home you have, what kind of furniture might one expect to see when they walked in the door. That's a good, if you're trying to think of, well, what do I want here? I think that's a good tip. It said, assemble the basics, which we've kind of talked about. Consider the things you've already owned. We've already talked about that. Here's another one. Know when to splurge and when to save. I needed some very specific sized outdoor furniture for my back porch. And I did try looking used, but it wasn't the right size. And I knew that I would use it a lot more if I got the correct size and one that would maximize the seating. And so I ended up buying new, and I had to splurge on it. It was more than what I would normally like to spend on outdoor furniture because I like to be able to switch it out and just resell it. But this was something I knew I needed to actually spend some money on. And so I felt like, okay, here's a place I have to splurge. But then I can save on the end table or the coffee table or the little side chairs. I can save on the other stuff. But the big thing, I kind of needed to just buy brand new.
Yeah, I think the more specific the need, that can be harder to fulfill. You just can't find everything on Facebook Marketplace sometimes.
I've noticed that to really spend your money on is anything you sleep on or sit on. And so we've had, nothing worse than a rickety chair or a bad mattress. And so we had learned we better get a good night's sleep. And those chairs need to be, commercial grade. They need to hold us and be solid. Because inevitably a kid is going to lean back in it, or they'll plop down on the couch, or they'll, whatever. Our kids are rough on stuff. And so, yes, sleeping, sitting, spend some money.
Yeah. The last thing I wrote down from the notes in the article was it said, don't forget vintage. And I think that if you can have one vintage item, even only just one in a room, it automatically brings so much personality. It makes it feel more collected over the years. It gives a sense of history. It can be a conversation starter. People can ask where you got that. I just think that some vintage pieces, they don't even have to be super expensive antiques. They could be art on your wall, or it could be a little side table or a little cabinet or something can just, I don't know, make it look more lived in and collected over time.
The other thing I read, and I think this was in a different article, it talked about we talked about time a little bit, and it made me think of the word timelessness. There's a beauty in slowness, when things are handmade and, handcrafted furniture, or I even thought about a hand crocheted blanket, Marie, you knit your blanket. I don't think I don't have any hand knitted blankets, but I think I'd probably choose that one to sleep under if I was watching TV, if I had made it, it just adds something, and it is a good conversation piece, or if you could do your own artwork, or I don't know. I just think that that adds a lot. And I do like talking about stuff like that in people's houses. Where did you find that? Or,
That's a neat story. My mom was a military wife for years and years and years. And it was, quick things, not a lot of furniture passed down in our family. And so they had things like, at different houses. And so it was after my dad retired from the military that she finally started investing in pieces, and she figured out she loves antiques. And so she started going to certain stores, and she really curated her home with beautiful antique pieces. And so she's getting to the point now with her house that it's full, and she's starting to ask, hey, do you like that piece? What do you think about that? And I'm thinking, yes, please pass that on. Her antique pieces are so beautiful, but it took her a long time to be able to get the home that she wanted with the pieces that she wanted. And so I appreciate knowing her journey. Just took a lot of time, and now it's changing again.
Mm-hmm. I do find that I kind of run out of steam in certain places. Like I'm looking into my husband's office / guest bedroom, and I'm looking at this dresser that I've actually hated since the day I bought it. But I bought it because it's very sturdy. Those boys that I have, they could yank on those drawers, nothing. A bomb could go off, and that dresser is going to hold together and stay square. But I never get a feeling of, oh, that's such a pretty dresser. And even when we moved in the house, Julie, I remember you were helping me. Do you remember this ugly dresser, Julie?
I do.
It's so ugly. And I was like, I want to get rid of that dresser. You go, oh, Marie, I think we can make it work in here. And that's one of the bad parts about slow decorating is, first of all, it's a heavy piece of furniture, and it's already been brought upstairs. And now, even though I hate it, I don't go in that room enough to really care about the research on what dresser I do want. So now I'll probably just have this eternally ugly piece, because who wants to try and carry it back downstairs? And do we use it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, people need a dresser in there, but it's ugly. I don't know.
That's good to have some ugly pieces. It'll make you appreciate the nice pieces.
Those are also conversation pieces.
Yes.
It's left over from my, you have 5 kids that destroy everything, and this dresser is indestructible.
I say keep that sucker.
Yeah. But I've offered it to my daughter and daughter-in-law, and they give me a major side eye. Like, yeah, it'll probably outlive us, but it's ugly.
You got to keep that thing. You got to give it a name.
I'm waiting until my son, right now he rents the furniture for his apartment, but eventually he'll move into a place where he needs furniture, and it's going to go with him.
There you go.
He'll be glad to have it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, you can slow decorate and still have pieces that you hate, because you're never done. I mean, someday I'll be caring enough to replace that thing.
Right.
All right. Well, what part does social media play in our pressure to decorate? Because I think social media kind of works against the idea of slow decorating.
Yeah, other than, I mean, we've already talked about it, that it can give you wonderful inspiration. But the bad part is that it makes you think everybody else is getting these beautifully curated rooms instantly. Mm-hmm. You know, we watch all these sped up DIY videos of this woman, putting in a new closet, or and it looks like she did it in a weekend, and all the TV shows where they basically condense 6 weeks to 6 months of work in an hour, that can be frustrating, because you want that to happen. Like, I think the article said there is no deadline. We're not having a photo shoot over here.
And you have to remember, they're showing their best spots. Now, some people, it's their job, and so every nook and cranny of their house is gorgeous, and they're like making money off the links and stuff like that. But most people have some rooms that are really pretty, and then they had some ugly dressers, and you're just not going in that room. Like, I think that social media can make you feel like, oh my goodness, every space is clean, curated, gorgeous. I mean, I don't know anyone in real life who really, well, maybe Julie, but I don't know anyone other than Julie in real life who every room looks gorgeous.
No.
I would say that Julie does. But like she said, she's constantly thinking, and there's no area too small for Julie to care about. Like for me, I'm like, seriously, that closet, we don't care. But she will care. So
She does care.
She's like another level. But I'm talking about average people. Like, you know,
We're
most
average.
people have some ugly dressers.
Right. Yeah, Julie is who I aspire to in so many different areas. This is one area I'm like, don't be Mindy. Don't be Mindy. Be Julie. Like, that's what I'm like. What would Julie do?
Too kind. Too kind.
Also, Marie, like her kids are out of the house. You know, she had time for them to be out of the house, and I'm just gonna say that that's my excuse. My kids are not out of the house yet.
Well, and there's no point in decorating, curating, and really spending a lot of money on teenage boy furniture. There just isn't.
No.
All right. Well, listeners, we would love to hear from you on slow decorating. If you've read this article or if you've seen these things on Instagram, if you're trying to implement this more in your own life, you can find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, we want to do I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a new nail concealer that I just found out about. I've talked about my process of having gel nails or the dip powder nails for a long time. And I didn't want to keep up that process. So then I went to natural nails, and it takes forever for them to grow out and get healthy. Well, I want to keep natural nails, but I needed something more than just a nail polish. And I'm not talented enough to do all these like major systems that you can buy now at home. Mm-hmm. I just needed something where my nails look a little bit, finished, clean. Okay. There is a nail concealer by London Town, and the color that I love is milky. Milky. This nail concealer just gives your nails, natural nails, a very just clean, finished look. And I'm terrible at doing nail polish. And so even for the terrible person, I don't feel like you can mess it up. It just kind of covers any, imperfections, or like if your nails are dirty from working in the yard, or if your nails are a little bit split. I mean, I'm already filing my nails, but if I have an event or something, I feel like I need a little something. Well, this is that little something.
How do you apply nail concealer?
It's a nail polish. You do apply it like a nail polish. The reason that I say like it's forgiving is that I do kind of have to clean up around my nail because I'm just messy, but it actually finishes looking really, really good. I mean,
and it doesn't like chip.
It has a different finish than a nail polish. So like mine, I've had it on for about 4 days. I didn't buy the whole thing. Like you could buy like a base coat, the nail concealer, and then also like a top coat. I didn't do all that. I just bought the one nail concealer.
Mindy, yeah, I'm interested in this.
I'll send you guys the link. I found it on Amazon. I think they sell it at like Sephora and Ulta also. But I just love the color milky. Yeah. It's a natural color. It's not too much. It's just enough. It looks finished.
Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah.
That'd be great. I'm so glad you brought that up because I just painted my nails kind of that color.
Yes.
And I'm not very good at it, y'all. I'm going to a black tie wedding, a destination wedding, and I feel like I have so much deferred maintenance on my feet and hands. I'm scraping my heels, I'm painting my nails, I'm taking my cuticles off, I want something like that. So you can get it local. You don't have to order it.
You can go to Ulta or Sephora, I believe. Okay. I just ordered on Amazon. I'll send you guys the link from Amazon.
Okay. Yeah.
That I used.
Yeah. Hey, I need this by tonight though.
Okay. We'll go to Ulta.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Because I love that color. I think that's so pretty.
It's a great natural color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
I'm a fan of a recipe. It's a spicy shrimp tacos with garlic, cilantro, lime slaw.
These make me hungry.
These were amazing. And what I did though was I made it easy because I might not have undertaken the recipe if I hadn't had some tricks from Trader Joe's. So I got Trader Joe's Argentinian red shrimp. 1 pound frozen. They were so good. And they said that red shrimp has a more lobster-like taste. They were really good.
Never even heard
And
of
then I bought their little street taco tortillas. And instead of making the slaw in the recipe, I bought Trader Joe's slaw mix. It's in the salad section. So you get the cabbage and then there's a little packet of dressing in it.
Nice.
So you just mix that up. And then I did make the cilantro lime sauce that the recipe called for, which it was like cilantro and green onion and sour cream. I think I used yogurt instead of sour cream. And then you just serve that up. You cook the shrimp in an iron skillet. That's what I did. And it was just in olive oil with about 4 spices like chili powder, cumin, garlic, and onion powder.
Nice.
Really, really good. And then you just serve it with a slice of avocado in each taco.
They
were
really
yummy.
good, Julie.
Yeah, and it tasted like, once again, like restaurant kind of meal. You know, they were and came together in like 20 minutes.
I love that.
That's
really
really
easy.
good. Yeah. All right. I'm a fan this week of a book I read last week. It was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. So I usually will always check those out of the library and see if I like it. And this one is called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. And Mindy, you are nodding. Did you read it?
I did a couple of years ago. I was in a book
I think
club.
I read that.
It's so cute. I really enjoyed it. And so it says that it's beautifully written and incredibly funny, which I thought both were true. And it's about the importance of friendship and human connection. I fell in love with Eleanor, an eccentric, regimented loner whose life beautifully unfolds after a chance encounter with a stranger. And I think you'll fall in love too. That's what Reese Witherspoon said about it. So if you haven't read Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, I would encourage you to. I just thought it was a feel-good read, and I wanted to see what happened to her.
Yes.
Yes.
You read it too, Julie?
I did, yes.
Okay.
So it's not a very new book. It seems like it was a while ago.
It says 2018, but
right.
I saw someone recommended it in this group I'm on Facebook, What Should I Read Next, it's called.
Right.
And someone recommended it, and so I thought, I've never read that one, so I got it out of the library.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. All right, you guys, I'm always interested in talking about slow decorating, and let me know how you're applying this, because I could talk about it forever.
Be Julie.
Okay, we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
That's great.
Bye.
Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.